Hello, and welcome to Diligence Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm Rebecca Corbin, founder and CEO of Corbin Advisors, a leading investor research and investor relations advisory firm that engages with boards and C-suite executives on value creation. Thank you to TK Kerstetter for the invitation to serve as guest host for our special two-part series on embedding sustainability into corporate strategy and galvanizing a culture. Last week, as part of our first series, we covered successfully embedding ESG into corporate strategy, the board's involvement, and tools to execute and track progress. To access the show, please visit diligent.com, Insights Inside America's Boardrooms. Today, we'll drill deeper into Ingersoll Rand's exciting and impactful ESG journey. I'm thrilled to once again welcome Chairman and CEO Vicente Reynal to the show. Vicente,
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca. Excited to be here and glad to be part of this. Thank you.
Absolutely. With that, let's begin. When you think about your ESG journey to date, Vicente, what actionable learnings can you share with our audience?
Yes, Rebecca, I'll first of all, I'll say that when we think about ESG, we think about it more holistically as a sustainability framework. And for us, if the strategy on sustainability is not embedded into everything you do as a company, it is definitely not going to work. And your ultimate goal also needs to be well understood and translated into how every employee in the company can impact that daily. So for example, for us, we have taken our 2030 targets and translated that into every single location across the world. So this means that for all of our 80 manufacturing sites, all of our 50 plus service centers, we have very specific targets around energy efficiency, around water conservation, around waste. And then that we teach the employees, the hourly work for employees, how can they impact that on the work that they do every day? And then we review that every week on how we're making progress. So I think you need to ensure that it is embedded into everything, not only from a daily perspective that I just mentioned here, but even also on, in our case, how we deploy cash and how we make investments. So we have changed our R&D targets so that we include targets for new product development around energy and water conservation. We have retooled our M&A funnel and strategy to ensure that we're acquiring companies that are aligned with that accomplishment that we want to achieve. So for example, we acquired a company that it was an early stage technology, that it was around water conservation for the paper industry. And today, we're helping save over 1 billion of gallons of water per year with this current technology that we have installed across many pulp and paper facilities, and one that is growing and is actually helping us not only outperform on the growth and profitability, but also help the environment in such a unique way. So I know all of this sounds really simple to say and difficult to do. And yes, it's a lot of work and difficult to do, but if you take it step by step, there is no other way on how you can get it done, but it's kind of meaningful and highly rewarding outcome.
And, while you've had a long history and heritage of, a lot of environmental focus, social focus, it's really been more recently that you've been on this accelerated journey, if you will, starting with a materiality assessment that you conducted. And, I believe that you've incorporated a lot of it into not just communicating with your employees, but also to your investors, et cetera. There's a healthy level of skepticism out there about sustainability and ESG. Many of those skeptics are coming over to the other side more recently, but a lot of questions as to whether this is a fad. What do you say to that?
I will say that, and yes, there's some skepticism, but the proof is in the results and the numbers, and at least at Ingersoll Rand, we have been able to demonstrate the power of the and in between, the power of the results and in the growth and profitability, and the power of the results around what you can do to create a positive impact for the environment, for your employees, and across all areas and facets of sustainability. So I think it's just one of those that yes, you have to demonstrate. It is not easy, but whether we're outpacing top line growth and profitability, which are tangible numbers that you can see, it's a great way to prove to investors that it is powerful once you kind of tie it to some of the other kind of less maybe tangible aspects that you don't see on a balance sheet or on a P&L statement, such as employee engagement. When we started 5 years ago to measure employee engagement, we were at the 20th percentile of our industry. So really at the bottom quartile. Today, this year, we actually are on the 95th percentile. So really on the really upper quartile. And again, it's because we took the survey, we measure, we listen to employees, we work with them, and we created actions that created that even a much greater place to work. And same thing as we tell our investors, they get impressed, again, not only by the numbers, but also the other actions, such as, you know, our board. 6 years ago, when I took over the role as CEO, I was the only diverse leader on the board. Today, 60% diversity, 2 Hispanics, 2 women, 1 African American. And it's not only about diversity from ethnicity and gender, but it's diversity that we achieve by linking our strategy and finding actually domain expertise of leaders that could help execute our strategy at Ingersoll Rand. So it's diverse way of thinking and backgrounds that have been proven to be essential for our outperformance. So I think it's just one of those that again, it's just, you got to drive and demonstrate that it's not only on the P&L, but also on the actions that you're taking, and everything will be very well linked.
Excellent. Drinking from the Kool-Aid, which is good for the world. Let's focus a little bit on investors. You know, according to our proprietary buy-side research, 84% of investors are placing greater emphasis on ESG as an investment factor over the past 2 years, and greater than 60% report their firm as a dedicated ESG unit responsible for screening and rating portfolio holdings on ESG. So it will be impacting valuation now and even greater in the future. What have you observed in recent years regarding investors' interest in and commitment to ESG sustainability?
Yeah, Rebecca, I tell you that, as you very well said, I mean, a few years ago, we were just getting minimal to no questions whatsoever around this very key important topics. And today we do, but we do also because we put it front and center. On the earnings call, we talk about it. On Investors Day, we talk about it. Every time we have a shareholder meeting, we also talk about it, and we demonstrate the progress that we're making and how that can impact the performance for long-term shareholder value creation in the company. And that's when it gets excited. And then when you get the excitement of that, and investors asking more questions. So for us, kind of the critical questions we're even getting now is that, how do we continue to embed sustainability and ESG into the company to ensure the results can be operationalized and tracked? And then we also get, okay, so tell me more about how can this ESG that other companies are putting targets on scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, how can we Ingersoll Rand help them? And so it's kind of how we have now focused that our communication, that it's about, yes, we're enablers and beneficiaries of this mega trend around helping the environment and helping our customers, that has been quite good for us in terms of bringing more investors' kind of curiosity into the table and ask the questions.
Yeah, it's so true. You know, it was several years ago around, you know, less bad things, do less bad things. And now it's really around, how are you driving sustainability in the world? What portion of revenue is associated with making the world a better place, a more sustainable place? And I know that you're a leader in that as well. As you reflect on the last several years since elevating sustainability as a corporate pillar, what do you believe are the most impactful outcomes?
Yeah, I think, Rick, it goes back to, first of all, you got to show that that is the power of the and in between, as I mentioned, which is, you know, how do you drive sustainable results by operationalizing your sustainability targets and having a very great driving force. So for us, I mean, the most impactful outcome has been, you know, the results that we have been able to achieve on our diversity, equity, and inclusion targets, the results that we have been able to achieve thus far around achieving towards our 2030 and 2050 targets, but also how that, while working on that, how that has really translated into a much healthier financial performance. And you can see it in the numbers that achieving a higher growth than the peers of the market, or achieving a higher profitability and growth momentum. And it's all because we have a very tight focus and everyone really going towards the same targets and same goals. So I think that comprehensive approach of connecting the dots, embedding it into your culture and strategy, that has been one of the most fundamental pillars for us to achieve this success.
And finally, you've given us so much food for thought, a lot of actionable strategies, initiatives. What one piece of advice would you give companies early in their sustainability or ESG journey to ensure successful outcomes? Is there a silver bullet to making this work?
I don't know if I will say a silver bullet, but I think that the most important piece that has been incredibly successful for us, and I get the question around not only for the ESG journey, but also on this broad-based ownership that we have, is how do you make it successful? And in my view is when you start with your company purpose, and that links really well with your company values, that then get executed through specific strategic imperatives, and you're able to translate that into all the way to the point of impact to an hourly operator that he or she knows exactly what they're doing is going to impact back again all the way up to that company purpose. That is the most impactful thing that everyone can do. So just making sure that there's just tight correlation and connectivity across those points is essential. And I know it sounds simple, but the proof is when you go to a factory and you work and ask an operator and ask them, do you understand our company purpose and how we execute that? And if he or she can say yes and explain that to you, then you're making it happen.
Yes, inspiring. Vicente, thank you again for taking the time to join us and sharing your thoughts and experience with our audience. It was truly terrific.
Thank you, Rebecca, again for inviting me and for sharing our story here. Thank you.
It was a pleasure guest hosting our two-part series for Diligence Inside America's Boardrooms. I hope you found our discussion helpful and actionable. TK will be back next week for another educational and insightful session. Thank you.